So, Elliott,
Hello.
what if ESIC was back and they've actually maybe done some good?
Yeah, that's what we needed. This year was going really great. Oh no, it was going really badly, so I needed some E6 to just spice things up because I just miss E6 so much. I miss talking about them.
Well, unfortunately, it's not particularly spicy because the teams involved, don't really give a fuck about anyway. But basically, there's some player who I'm not going to pretend to have ever heard of before.
I've heard of him because people.
Oh, we get it. You're a
him.
fucking savant.
No. People. I've never seen him play, but people rated him quite highly as an upcoming talent.
Okay, well, it turns out he may or may not have been, but it don't matter now because I guess he's banned for match fixing, and
yeah,
he made $20,000 off it, so good for him.
It's more than I've made off this podcast. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, sure thing, but again, I don't really care about that. I'm just mentioning this because it's news and there's
and ATOX as well.
Yeah, that's the more important part.
A little bit more relevant because they were supposed to be at Blast Pro Lisbon and Blast Open Lisbon, I should say, and PGL Bucharest in the qualifier, but they've been disqualified because of a provisional suspension from ESIC, which is actually quite annoying because I actually wanted to see ATOX at Blast Open Lisbon. They qualified as finally a new team. But the good news is they've been replaced by the Huns, who are also kind of a new team, with Bartak and Nine, who you might have heard of from other Mongolian teams. So,
because I really don't care about anything ESIC does, if I'm honest, but just for the sake of it, this guilty until proven innocent approach that they tend to go for. You got thoughts on that?
I think if they're banning people, they probably have an overwhelming amount of evidence, and I think you kind of have to give them the benefit of the doubt.
But they've done it in the past, right? A couple of the coaches weren't actually needing to be banned.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. But I don't know. I feel like the fact that they were chastised so badly for that means I'll probably be a bit more careful now. I think they've probably got an overwhelming amount of evidence to do this.
Well, let's hope so. And let's also move on because ESIC are just fucking miserable. Yeah. Apologies to everyone for starting with that story. We just felt like we needed to talk about it. And that's about as much care as you get from us. Talk about something more fun, I guess, although slightly sad for a long-time fan. Guardian has retired. I want to say again, because I feel like he did retire before BC game.
But anytime you're on a team with Lecro, you're basically retired.
Well,
and I like Lecro, but it's,
But he wasn't on a team for 2 years, so surely he did retire, because when he popped back up, he was a coach.
Yeah, I think he has. I think this is but I think this is his official retirement. I think he probably still thought he had some juice. And now he's oh no, I'm all out of juice.
He had
juiceless.
One standing map or something where he played well. I don't even know what happened there. He was their coach, then he stood in.
And then they liked him, so they kept him for a bit. Yeah.
But he must have been bad because that lasted about 2 months. Not really sure what happened.
I think it was it was until they could get another AWPer, I think is what it was. Right. It was he was I'll play until we find somebody to take my role because I really cannot be asked to do this.
Well, either way, since he fucked off, they've qualified for at least one tournament. I'm sure it's actually 2. It's Dallas, I know for sure they qualified for. I'm sure there's another as well. It's kind of sad, isn't it?
A little bit.
Guardian,
I think his career as well is actually quite sad in retrospect. He didn't win as much as you would imagine for a guy of his name. The name Guardian is synonymous with fear for so many players of a certain age, and he didn't win a major, and I'm pretty sure he didn't win a Kelowna or Kato either. I think he might have won an EMS Kato, but not an IEM Kato.
Yeah, something like that.
And like you look back at his highlight, I was looking back at some of his highlights the other day. You know the ace, like the 1v5
Against
an overpass.
Fnatic.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the Cato they lost.
it's in a grand final they lost, and it's not even the best ace of the final.
No, it's not.
It's actually so sad. Like his whole career, he's just not. He was just second best. It's so sad that he was never.
But it's also
so
like
sad.
I wasn't watching CS for the first major final he was in, but like the Boston major final, he was just the best player on FaZe in that final. And just gets let down by everyone else, and the fact that Skadoodle had the best game of his career.
So, and the first one he got there with a broken hand or something, like, broken wrist. I think.
His wrist or
he
hand,
was playing on like 4 times his normal sensitivity, and he still made the major final. Like, if he was in full form, they'd probably win that, and he just wasn't, as it was a blowout. It's like,
I mean,
what can you do?
He's gonna go down as the greatest player to never win a major, as long as Nico does win one.
Well, yeah, I mean that's.
But
I'd be surprised if Nico won one now. To be honest.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. I'm sure we'll get to that in a bit. Especially because as we're recording this, has the third map started against Furia? Yeah, it has started. So by the time we finish recording this, we'll probably know the result of that.
Yeah.
It's just a shame because Guardian's one of those players that seem to just fade out of CS. Like the time with FaZe ended,
really hard.
Yeah, the time with FaZe ended, and then he went to Na'Vi, and he was just bad.
He was crap, but
he was just really bad.
Yeah, and he just seemed to have he was in Simple's spot, quote unquote. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what was supposed to be Simple's, and he went to Na'Vi. It didn't work, and that was his career just ended basically there.
I
look
can't
at the
even,
teams he stood in for.
Where did he go after Na'Vi? I can't even.
So I'm looking at it. Head. He stood in for Dignitas at Flashpoint.
Fucking hell.
Two things. Dignitas at Flashpoint. I mean, that is a slice of time that I wasn't ready for. He then stood in for Mbappé, an open qualifier. He stood in for Sinners, Trident, Sinners again, and then eventually joined Singularity. I'm going to look at some of his games there and see who he was playing with. He was playing with... Oh, wow. He was playing with Seized, Clax, Diledez, and Norway.
Right. Okay.
And he was, fine, but he wasn't particularly good either.
His career did just...
Yeah.
It went off a cliff in a way that's actually just really rare for players of his caliber. It's actually surprising he didn't get anything after Na'Vi.
I think there was rumours that he wasn't taking it very seriously as well.
Maybe. It was a while ago, man. What was that?
I remember there being things about Simple coming out and saying he was so hyped to play with his hero, and then his hero just didn't practice very much, and he was really sad. I mean, that's potentially libelous, but I'm sure that's what he said.
Who gives a fuck?
No, Guardian ain't listening to this. You don't give a shit what I say.
No, he ain't. So Guardian's retired. Kind of sad. We'll always remember a Guardian flick.
Yeah, I mean, he lives on through the meme.
Yeah, he'll live on through the meme and never
in 10 years, people who have no idea who Guardian or Olofmeister is will go, oh, I know that from the meme. Like when Cole Palmer was like, oh yeah, no, I know who Gianfranco Zola is because he's good on FIFA. It's like, that's so heathenous.
I do hope, though, that the fact that he didn't win a major or anything like that doesn't become a reason why he is forgotten, because he was just so good, man.
He was never my favourite, but that's partially because he was on FaZe.
And also because he was an AWPer and you hate AWPers.
Yeah, but there's some AWPers I like.
Go on, then.
Shazam. JDM.
Move on! Right, so...
Have I ever told you about the time Shazam out-AWPed Guardian? My lasting memory of Guardian is a time Shazam out-AWPed him so bad, Guardian stopped AWPing and Simple started AWPing, and then Shazam absolutely dick Simple as well. I'm not joking. You can look at it. Misfits, it was when he was on Misfits and they beat Na'Vi, and Shazam dropped 70 in a better 3. Amazing.
Move on! Right. So we spoke about it as a potential last week or the week before. I don't know. The weeks are all melting into one at this point. Complexity have gone and benched TC or released him. Don't know.
Seems like not enough, but
Yeah. Listen, that team's fucking dreadful. That's like 4 moves too little.
It's like your boat's sinking because it's too heavy and you've thrown the cat overboard. It's like, it's not going to help. It's a good first step, but you've got a lot of other steps.
The strangest part about it, though, was when they just, like, they announced it, like, mid-qualifier with just a single image and, like, a thanks for your service, like, see you later. It's just, like, this bloke's been with you for 3 years. Like, you could have done maybe a little more. I know there wasn't much to celebrate in those 3 years, but there's probably, like, at least 2 clips of him with his fists raised.
They got to finals and stuff. Like
Maybe a singular nice at a Pro League event when you actually made the 72 team playoffs. Like,
yeah, but then like I'm also, I mean, people overdo it with like tweets like that. It's like, yeah, just get him off. Like you tried. Like it's a tweet. Who cares? Like I wouldn't be asked. You don't need to try that hard when you're benching your coach. Like, come on, he's not even a player.
It is at least a step in the right direction for Complexity. I think they'll still stick with this team for way too long because this team's clearly bad. And it's even bad on like a domestic sense. Like we said it last week, we don't back this Complexity to beat MAE Wildcard,
NRG.
NRG. There was another one as well, not including Liquid. Was it Liquid? Or was it not?
It was those 3 and Liquid.
Okay.
I'll have a look at because I don't think there's any other domestic team we're talking about.
So like this Complexity team's so bad, and I think that they'll still stick with it for probably too long.
Yeah.
But I also didn't expect them to get rid of TC, so I kind of hope that we're wrong, and maybe Jason Lake has secured some cash from somewhere and we'll do something fun.
Seems unlikely. But the 4th highest rated American team, so United States team, by the way, is Blue Jays. So who recently picked up Wolfie, Freshy, Fruit Cup X, Slight and Snav.
Well, if they're not better than them, they've got a real problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, there's just so many changes you need to make to Complexity. Like, if you want to blame stuff on TC, you have to blame it on JT as well. Grim never materialised into anything, and
he had
Nix,
spells where he was good.
Yeah, but I've had spells where I can hit a shot, and I'm still terrible at the game. Like
Grim did have spells where he was decent on this team. I know you don't particularly rate him, and that's fine. I'm not his biggest fan, but he's had like periods on this team where he's been like genuinely quite a good player. Floppy did as well, and then he fell off a cliff, which Grim has done. But
fine, but like Sixie and Nix are bigger issues. Like those two are never like JT. Okay, if you think you're not going to get anything better, fine. Like who knows what Stan's buyout is? He'd be my first port of call personally. But if you think you can't get better for where you're at, fine. I can accept that. Grim, again, like, maybe you can keep him around. But Sixie and Nix, like, fuck me, there's got to be a better option than them, because they are fucking hopeless.
I would kick JT and get an American IGL because they need some firepower. And they're not going to get firepower from the sort of places they're looking, by the looks of things. Yeah. Because no disrespect, I actually think Sixie is talented, but I think he doesn't have the desire, the drive, that's harsh. But like, I think he has problems outside the server. I think he's actually quite talented. Nick's probably the other way around, where he's not that gifted, but I think he's probably a trier. If you combine them two, you'd have like one good player, I think.
You'd have one player with a 1.05 average rating. So
yeah, which would probably be Complexity's best player. But
I don't think
that's kind of the problem. Like, the problem is the only way they need more Europeans, but they want to stay American. It's like you got to cut JT and get an American IGL to get another European like player, rifler probably. It's like you can only have 2 non-Americans if you want to stay American, and you need 5.
The thing is that you need, like, with that in mind, like, you need Stan. It has to be Stan because, like, M80 have Sin, so there's no one you can get from there.
Yeah,
and NRG have Nitro, which in the nicest way.
Yeah, let's not do that again.
In the nicest way, and then
I mean, also, you say M80 have Sins, you can't get any of them. Also, I think M80 have more money than them.
Well, yeah, but then like, where do you go from there? Because like, okay, Hex doesn't look completely rubbish now, but he's also hexed.
Yeah, like come on.
Like,
I mean,
hexed.
George is fine, but then is he like a massive? Like he's not an upgrade on Grim.
So for my money, it has to be one of Lake or JBA. In which case, like the same as Sin applies to Lake. Oh yeah, but he's better than what they've got. That's the issue. Like he's better than what they've got, and at the same time, I just think like, why the fuck would Stan and JBA leave a wildcard team that I think is just better in every way than this complexity?
Except maybe Hulzerk.
Yeah, except maybe Hulzerk for Fuzi.
Yeah, which again is like, it's kind of a preference thing. I think Hulzerk's better, but I mean, I could see some people wanting.
I think Hulzerk's better, but like I can see
more
an
reliable.
argument for Fuzi, because he's more. But like, complexity couldn't dream of having a player as good as Susp.
I know. You're completely right, and it's like.
Yeah, and it's fucking Susp in the
They had a
nicest way.
Liege a minute ago.
He got booted from fucking Metisport.
Yeah, I know.
That went well for them, by the way.
Like that's the thing. When we say like, oh yeah, we think NRG are better, we think M80 better. Each one of them has an individual player who would massively improve complexity. Bro would immediately be the best player in complexity, no questions asked.
Like comfortably as well.
Comfortably the best player on this team. Lake would easily be the best rifler on this team from M80.
Honestly, if I was
Rec
complexity, I'd be lobbing some money at like a couple of Valorant players and just hoping for the best.
Is Curry still playing? I always liked him.
I think so, yeah.
He was one I watched play at Counter-Strike and was like, yeah, no, this kid's decent. Like he can actually play. And then he went to Valorant.
What's Ethan doing now? Get Ethan back. Is he on a team?
I have no idea.
Recent results. Apparently he plays for NRG. When was this? He's on NRG with Som and FNS. And them some money. There's your new core. Som, Ethan, FNS. We're back, boys.
Grim. Hulzerk, Grim, FNS. And who, sorry? Som, Ethan,
FNS.
Yeah, I mean, that team's rubbish, but it's probably better than
Hey, look, they've got another American as well called Verno. I don't know who he is.
No,
he might be rubbish, but get him in. Get him in.
Yeah.
Probably better than Nick's.
We're doing the reverse now. American CS teams are just signing full Valorant rosters instead of the other way around. Like, you're not going to outspend a Valorant roster either, by the way. They're not going to.
No, they're not. Like, they're actually just not.
Nobody's playing CS for the money.
It's so hopeless for complexity. It's actually just so.
It's why
hopeless.
Like you're always like kind of mean to them, and I'm like, I actually feel bad because there's nothing they can do. There's actually nothing they can do.
No, there's not, and I do feel sorry for them, but also I enjoy clowning on them more.
Yeah, well, I just feel bad for them. Like, what are they supposed to do? All the good players are just not American.
Well, yeah. But the thing is, though, right, and here's why I don't actually really feel that sorry for them. It's their own fucking fault. Like, I know people didn't expect Lake to be as good as he has been, or like...
No, nobody like even knew Lake before he was on it.
But like, at the end of the day, Swisher, Rec, Lake, Malbs, like, all of these players...
The fact that I could tell you that Malbs was that good and like nobody else... I mean, I know he had quite a big buyout, I think, because he was in Brazil. But like, after 0-0 Nation... Why was nobody picking him up? Like, I could tell you he was this good.
But the thing is, like, at the end of the day, right, we can say what we just said about Lake and no one really knew who he was, no one knew he was this good or whatever. It's their fucking job to know.
Well,
someone
well,
at M80 knew he was good. Someone at M80 looked at him and thought, "Do you know what? We're losing Malbs. This is the guy that won't make us lose the level we're at."
Yeah.
How do Complexity not have someone like that? How did they end up in a place where this is the team they've got? It's their own fucking fault.
That is fair. I think, actually, M80 finding Lake is a genius piece of work. I know people who, like, when I talked to people at Dust 2, when I heard that move was happening, they were like, yeah, it wasn't even on our radar. Like, we'd heard of him, no idea. And he's just turns out to be fucking great.
I feel like I heard about Lake because, and I can't remember what the fuck it was I was watching, or maybe I read something, but it was something after a Launders LAN.
Right.
And someone in that had said there was a player called Lake who was a tidy prospect. I swear to God it was him. And it might not have been, it might be someone else who's like slightly down the pecking order in NA, but I've seen his name since on HLTV or something, but I'm sure it was Lake. I'm sure that I had heard of him when they picked him up, and it was because of a Launders LAN.
Oh, there you go. But then Complexity should be at Launders LAN.
If so, yeah, players. Complexity should be at Launders LAN, because there are so many examples, like fucking 9-10, great example. Like, what were we saying last week about Advent? Was it Mosaic?
I was talking about how good Mercury and Mosaic were, yeah.
Yeah, but which one was it that was signed from a pug?
I think Mercury. No, I think Mosaic. I can't remember. He signed one of them, I think, because he played against. But
this is where, like, Complexity should be at Launders LAN. They should be at Frag. They don't have to be competing. They can just be looking out for these players where they think, you know what, this player has it on a mechanical level.
Yeah.
We can get him smarter if we can give him the platform to do this.
Yeah.
Without needing 40 hours a week somewhere else, like.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact they won't do that, like, especially with their financial position, fuck them. In the nicest way, fuck them. I just...
Yeah.
You deserve to be where you are, in my opinion.
Maybe they should get Shazam.
Move on! Right, so it's sort of sticking with NACS. Some... Not even invites, but sign-ups, I guess. Some sign-ups for Fragadelphia Vegas, I believe it is.
So not
were announced the other day. Yeah, so not... Doesn't matter, it's the brand. Right, so sign-ups for Fragadelphia Vegas went out. There's some interesting names. NRG is one of them. Blue Jays one of them. FlyQuest Red, which is their female roster, is one of them. And so is NIP.
There's a team for you to go and scout Complexity.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
Get shushing.
And I've actually got, like, a few points about this one, but I wrote it for the newsletter.
You didn't like it, did you?
I wrote it for the newsletters, and maybe you looked at it, so maybe you know my thoughts already.
I think we had a bit of a talk about it, didn't we?
Yeah, so you take the floor first.
So the reason NIP are doing it is because they're looking for VRS points, because they're at their wits' end trying to get into events, realising that actually the system is rigged against teams who come from nothing. Very much the point we've made. Snappy's been quite vocal about it because he's snappy.
Can also get wildcard invites.
So yes, so winning this, you can get a wildcard invite and you can get VRS points, both of which NIP desperately need. Which means they're going to go to Fragadelphia and take it really seriously. Which, in my eyes, I don't care about Fragadelphia, so I don't really care. But I think it's not really the point. But then, this is what happens when you try and legitimise it. You're going to get teams actually trying to win it. That's kind of how I feel. Like, you try and legitimise it by giving it VRS points or whatever, and teams are going to take it seriously.
Well, so here's the problem, right? If VRS exists, then I don't think it's a bad thing that an event like Frag, and I'm going to include Epic LAN in this as well, because there was an announcement from ESL the other day that Pro League in future, the first two stages will be online with an arena playoffs. I can't remember if that's next year or for the second season this year. But part of that announcement was that there'll be two qualifiers for it. One will be NA BYOC LAN and the other one at an EU one, with Epic LAN seemingly, and I guess Frag or Launders LAN, and then Epic LAN seemingly being some of the bigger prospects. There's obviously a couple more around Europe, but Epic LAN is, like...
The one we're most familiar with.
We're most familiar, and it has a lot of infrastructure in place.
Yeah.
So I don't think there is inherently a problem with it being eligible for VRS. I think the problem is that because of VRS, how VRS is, that's where the problem forms. Because that then does invite the teams like NIP to go to these events. And then when you've got the wildcard thing on top, there's extra incentive. Because at the end of the day, the wildcard thing, maybe that isn't even a bad thing. But it's not a bad thing on the basis that, like... Okay, Blast Bounty has... Blast Open has... One of them has wildcard spots. I think it's Blast Bounty, actually. Has wildcard spots. So NRG and Blue Jays have signed up for Frag. One of them could get the wildcard spot, and then get a wildcard invite to Blast Bounty. That's great. That's really good.
Yeah, that's what it should be used for.
And the same for EU, like that. Alaska team has formed in UK. They could go and win Epic. I believe they just did. So they'll now be eligible for wildcard invites. Like, you've got things like this, really good. But the problem comes that then you'll have teams like NIP, and there's probably a couple other teams that I'm sure if you look at the rankings, you could pick out a couple within 30 seconds of looking, that are now incentivized to go to these tournaments. And if these tournaments become Pro League qualifiers, it's even worse.
Yeah, then you're going to get half the world applying.
That it's going to change the culture of these events. And this is what I think is more important than the actual legitimate value of the events. Whatever word you said earlier, I don't know.
I don't remember. Everything I say, I immediately delete from my brain.
Reasonable. So, I obviously don't know what a frag is like, right? But I know enough from our friends going to Epic, and enough about...
That. I don't know what a frag is like. Carry on.
Fuck off. So I don't know what the experience of Fragadelphia is like, nor have I been to an Epic, but I know enough from our friends and enough about our culture that I've got a solid guess of what goes on at an Epic LAN. You might think it's cool the first time that NIP is there, the first time that like one of these big players goes down, one of these big teams, you see a couple names and you're playing against them. You might think that's really cool. And then it'll get to the end of the weekend and you'll be like, that kind of felt different, this one. Yeah. I don't know what was different about it. And you won't figure it out. And then the next one, when a couple more teams go, because that first team has legitimised that as a potential pathway, you're going to really notice a change. Yeah. And suddenly, all these people are going to be asking for like roster restrictions. Like Epic LAN will suddenly become UK only, or you got to have a UK core. Fragadelphia will become that. I don't think that's a bad thing, just to put that out there. But I don't like that would end up becoming a necessary thing, because now all of these teams are coming over to ruin... not intentionally to ruin, but then inadvertently ruining the culture of the event. And in my eyes, that's really bad.
It's another symptom that could easily have been avoided if we just didn't have this dogshit VRS system. The incentives are just all fucking backwards, and you're seeing how this affects the ecosystem. The teams, the organisations that you want to exist can't exist, and these institutions that, whatever I feel about Epic LAN or Fragadelphia, I don't really care for them, but like, they're clearly a big part of Counter-Strike culture in their countries. And it's like, next year, Fragadelphia semi-finals is going to be like 4 CCT teams.
Yeah, it will be. It straight up will be.
You'll get teams flying over from like fucking Serbia, taking it as seriously as they can.
Epic will be the same.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, snappy mate. Apologies for what I'm about to say. You're a friend of the podcast. We both get on really well with you.
Good guy.
And we both appreciate you.
Great guy.
And think you're a really good guy. You might go to this first Frag and you might be really fun to be around, and you might go to an Epic and be really fun to be around. But if things are in the same place they're in now, when the next Epic rolls around and the next Frag rolls around, and you go and try and do it again, I'm willing to bet that you're not going to be that pleasant to be around, because you're going to realise then just how important it is that you get the VRS points and you get the wildcard spots.
He ain't at the Weatherspoons pub quiz on the Saturday night. He's not there.
I do not fucking blame you one bit for being like that.
No.
I just don't think that the system should set you up to be like that.
No, exactly. It makes no sense. How have we got to a point where the only way for a team with Snappy and Shush on it to be at a big event is to win Fragadelphia? What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, or make it through some like horrible gauntlet qualifier, which, to be fair, I don't think the EU one was the same. But go and look up the NA qualifier for PGL Bucharest. Insane. Absolutely insane. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Look at the fucking format for that. It is one of the most mental, like, intense things I've ever seen. It's got a BO5 final. I'm sure it's Bucharest. I'm going to look really stupid if it's not Bucharest.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
BO5
All right.
final,
Read it out.
So, there's two groups which are ESL, all BO3s, I think. No, sorry, there's 4 groups which are all like that.
4 groups of how many teams?
Fucking too many. 8?
4 groups of 8 teams, double elim, BO3, into a BO3 playoffs bracket, into a BO5 final.
Yeah, these are all like, there are so many teams here I've not even remotely heard of. I'm not even sure.
Mental. Why?
There's like full Russian teams.
Yeah, it's insane. There's like one team that's called like Immigrants or something. It's just like,
Immigrants Peak. Yeah, they did well in another round as well. I think
isn't it just Ukrainian players?
3 Ukrainians, 2 Americans.
Right. Yeah, it's just mental. Like,
yeah.
What? Why is a qualifier being ran like that?
I kind of like it, honestly. I'll be honest. Because the qualification to PGL Bucharest is like the biggest game of some of these. Like, okay, it's wildcard complexity. No. It's actually not. Wildcard should probably win that quite comfortably. But if it was like Blue Jays versus like Nouns or something, who both went out in the semi-final, it'd be like the biggest game of their careers.
Yeah. No, look,
not
straight up. I don't have as much of an issue with the BO5 final.
BO5 final's great.
The rest of it is absurd. Like, the rest of it is absolutely insane.
It's like the winners of all 4 groups are the only teams in playoffs, which is... You could have just had an 18 playoffs. Yeah. With top 2 going through. It would have made much more sense.
But we've gone off the boil slightly. But, like, it's just... I fucking hate VRS, man. It's just such an issue that this is what it's going to create. And there will be... Because it will be, like, 2 or 3 Epic lands, and maybe the same for Frag. But also... Probably not for Frag, because the Americans will think it's really cool that the EU teams are coming over and needing them, and they'll think it legitimises them because they're all fucking stupid. Sorry, that was unnecessary. But, like, there'll just be a few of these events that will get ruined, and then a couple of people probably won't ever go to them again. Like, because I actually, and we've spoke about it recently, the people that I at least play games with. You don't really play games anymore because you've got things going on in your life, unlike the rest of us. We've spoke about it recently, like, maybe we'll go to one of them this year and just like rent the PCs, have a laugh for the weekend. We don't care how we do, but if the culture entirely changes where it becomes more serious and going and pissing about playing for fun is ruined because like teams like Nip are there and teams like fucking, I don't know, Sinners, Namiga, those type of dickheads start turning up to get VRS points and wildcard invites, like, I just think that's a shame.
On the other hand, TYLOO at Epic Land, you in or you out?
Oh, but that's different. That's different. That's different.
See, there is a middle ground here. TYLOO at Epic Land, we're all in.
Yeah, every cloud, mate. Anyway, should we talk about the take of the week? Because I know we forgot to mention it before we hopped on, but you sent me one the other day, didn't you?
I think I did, yeah.
I believe you did. You don't have to scroll too far back. You sent it me on the 7th. I'll let you say it because you found it this week.
All right.
Yeah, you filled the gap, mate.
Here it is.
Oh, okay, he's got it already.
Yeah,
Didn't
that's
even
all
have
right.
to fill. Fantastic. What a host.
I was going to talk about the tweet that I saw before that, which was you sending me. I wonder what's so dangerous about this lake of rage, and it's the intimidating shiny Gyarados, which is a very red man screaming at me.
Well, we'll send that to the editors and they can just put
we'll
it over
that
so that anyone who's listening to this on Spotify just has some horrendous sound for like 5 seconds.
That's
Thanks,
what we
Mac.
want.
Appreciate you now for doing that.
So it was I think it was about Fragadelphia? Yes, it was. And some guy responded to the HTTP article with, I'm not sure how most people feel, but I think this is actually a showing of VRS being a good system. No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Yeah, it just in what sense?
No, it isn't. Like, okay, yeah, NIP going to Fragadelphia once is kind of fun. Like we just said, it could ruin it. But also, what if you're of the level of NIP, but you're not of the financial backing of NIP, and you can't afford to just fly to Fragadelphia and sign yourself up for these events? Like, it's just like the rich get rich. Like the lower tier teams who are rich can afford to do this, but the other ones can't. That's the beauty of open qualifiers. You don't have to be rich to join an open qualifier.
And that, by the way, is something that someone in the reply said. Only the richest teams from the biggest teams would make more sense if said orgs. But only the richest teams from the biggest orgs being able to break through. Amazing indeed. And the guy who posted the original tweet... Oh, no, it's not. It's a different guy.
It's a different guy.
Nip has a lot of money.
Patrick Hanson, which is a good name.
Good name. And has been proven a fraud team that can't make their players shine. Have they been proven a fraud team?
It's also just not relevant. It's just not relevant.
It
just doesn't matter.
The other reply, by the way, comes from an old friend of ours.
No, it's not. No,
I'm not going to read out his name.
He's also not a friend of ours.
All right, well, I get on quite well with him.
Yeah,
he is Australian.
Wouldn't call him a friend.
All right, whatever. Well, I'm not going to read out his name because I'm pretty sure we'll get in trouble just for his name being read out. But he just put, it's actually really funny. I hope we see more EU teams travelling to weaker regions to farm points against worse opposition. Which you might find funny, and if you do, fair enough. Personally, I think it's quite sad. Thank you for summing up my point for me, Lane.
It'd be funny the first time. Less so the 14th time.
Yeah, less so the 14th time.
It's like having, like when we had Imperial Valkyries, I should say, events. It's like, it's kind of funny at first, and now it's like, it's just sad.
Do you know what, actually? I've changed my mind just because I just saw a Twitter notification. I've changed my mind about EPICLAN. I hope all the top teams go. Because UK CSGO cover EPICLAN, and earlier they put out an article about Epic 44, and in the first paragraph it said the word winningest.
Yeah, I've got after Logan before for using the word winningest on this podcast. You wouldn't call Donk the shootingest player ever, so you don't use the word win. Most successful is fine. Successful is fine.
My least favourite word. It's not a real word.
No,
I hate like validating Americans by saying it is my least favourite word, but it's at least a collection of letters that form something close to the resemblance of a word. And fuck UK CSGO for putting that in an article. Freddie, Ethan, if you end up watching this, they're editors of UK CSGO. Close the website.
At least remove winningest.
You can do that.
It's not a word.
I don't know who wrote it either.
No, I'm not. Let's not start calling out independent.
No. Just have words. Have words about.
Yeah, actual.
I don't know who that is actually. So I do know a guy who works for EPICLAN. He's at EPICLAN. Works for UK CS:GO. He's actually a nice guy. I wouldn't have felt bad making a joke out of that. I don't know the other guy, so I'm not going to do it now. Right, let's move on. Let's talk about Pro League. I'm going to do a quick score check. It's currently 8-7 to Furia on map 3 of a 1-2 game against Falcons, so the loser of that will be out of the competition. But as we've done for every other Swiss stage that we've covered, let's just go through the teams.
All right.
So we'll be starting with Vitality. And their insane record since they've signed ropz. I can't remember what it is. I think is it 20... 21-4? something like that. Is
Something like that.
Matt win-loss since signing
Yeah.
ropz? Might be even
They're
better now,
pretty-
because I saw that the other day. I don't remember where I saw that.
Pretty decent. I'm gonna count
good.
now if you want to talk.
They're just really good, and I think we kind of always knew that ropz would be a really good signing for them. I'm not sure if I thought it would be this instantly good though. Like
They're 21-3, I think. 21-4.
21-4, like that is a fucking good record.
Yeah.
Because I bet spirits don't look that good.
No, because Vitality beat them 3-0 at Qatar. So.
Well, yeah, like Vitality might just be the best team in the world.
Yeah.
And they might stay that way for a little bit.
Signing ropz. When FaZe signed ropz, they immediately got better as well. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
I felt like they pretty immediately.
Well, they won everything for 6 months, mate.
Yeah, like
No,
they
I think
signed
they
ropz
lost.
and there's.
They lost one tournament for 6 months.
Yeah, like signing ropz is like the best thing you can possibly do if you're winning. Like it doesn't always stay, but there's like a lot of people like watch ropz and go, yeah, no, he's good and he's like, whatever. But like actually, he wins a lot of games. Like he wins more games.
The thing is, he's better at the T side roles than Spinks is, and also when it comes to CT roles, I actually think, yeah, I am going to say this. I think ropz is the most versatile player in the world when it comes to CT roles.
On CT roles, that's probably.
I genuinely think every spot on every map, and I'm including Orpa, ropz could play them.
Yeah.
And he could play them at very high levels. Like, obviously, Orpa would probably be the lowest, and that would probably be the one where he topped out. Like, he's not getting on as good of a team.
Seem to remember Harry didn't like it when he AWP'd.
That was like double AWPing or some nonsense. Like, he's not a bad AWPer.
No, he's not. I actually think he's quite good.
But like, genuinely, is there any anchor spot or rotator spot where you're like, I probably wouldn't want ropz there?
No, I'm struggling.
Can you imagine ropz on B-site Mirage?
Oh, it'd be unbelievable.
Bomb would never be planted again.
Where does he play on this current phase on Mirage? Is it Connector?
Well, it's Vitality for one.
Sorry, yeah, I meant Vitality.
And I honestly can't remember off the top of my head.
Because he used to be... when he first joined Mouse, he was their A anchor, which is like
Phenomenal.
a notoriously hard spot. And I think he was like the best I've ever seen at that role.
Yeah,
Like,
phenomenal there.
He was so
phenomenal con. If you want to swing into him on short, I'm sure he'll gladly rip your head off.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I think you're right. I'm trying to think of a spot where I'd be like, nah, I probably wouldn't want ropz. It's like, no, you just back him to do well in any spot you put him.
And the thing is, right, there's a couple more players where you're like, yeah, but they could play every spot and they'd probably be fine. Fine.
Like
would
Keserato.
Would they be as good as ropz?
No,
they wouldn't. ropz is just so good.
ropz simultaneously has like this insane ceiling and a ridiculously high floor. Like he's almost never less than world class, which is insane.
The big thing
he
with
just
ropz
doesn't
is
make mistakes.
He just doesn't. He doesn't ever make mistakes. ropz is like base game, and all of his protocols for everything he ever does are just so solid, and they're so like perfect for whoever he's playing against. Just doesn't make mistakes. So yeah,
it's like Bukayo Saka. And that. Like Saka has all the ability in the world, and he will pick the exact one he needs against whatever opposition he's against. Like you want to double up on him, he'll happily like just pass out of it and pass and move until there's an overload somewhere else. Like that's what Saka does. Like ropz is the same. Like you want to try and pressure him and his lurk spots. Good luck. Like
yeah,
you can try, but his protocols are so good. His crosshair placement is always flawless. He has some of the best I think probably the best crosshair placement I've ever seen. Like his crosshair placement is always flawless. Like he rarely needs more than a bullet. He's just phenomenal. Like it's just so calm and so intelligent, and he backs that up with like robotic mechanics. If you're an IGL, he is your perfect player. Like he's the exact player you want.
it's no surprise that when he was breaking through, he basically had to prove that he wasn't cheating. And that sums him up the best. But yeah, so Vitality have gone through 3-0. They beat MIBR 2-1, 3DMAX 2-0, and Mouse 2-0. The other 3-0 team is Spirit. They beat TYLOO, Saw, and the Mongols and didn't drop a map. And I honestly have nothing to say about Spirit, so I'm down to just move on.
You know when we talked about like the S tier, and the A tier, I think there's 2 S tier teams. Okay. Let's talk about that because that's the next thing I wanted to talk about. Yeah.
So Na'Vi went through today 3-1, which sounds good, right? Because maybe in your head they're like, oh well, they lost to one of the 3-0.
There's only 2 3-0
teams. Except we just read out the 3-0 teams and they didn't lose. Like, Na'Vi didn't lose to either of them. No, Na'Vi lost their opening game to Saw.
And it wasn't that close. Like, it was 2-1 and they battered them on Inferno. But then they lost 13-4 on the deciding match. And it doesn't happen to Na'Vi.
And, like, okay, so Saw have looked more competitive than I'm willing to guess that we both thought with Azura and Seajot. But Na'Vi should never lose to them.
No, they shouldn't lose a series. They lose a map, fine. That happens.
Yeah.
No, you really shouldn't happen.
So the rest of Na'Vi's results, they beat TYLOO 2-1, Pain 2-0, and I guess the important one in terms of levels of teams, G2, who they beat 13-9, 13-6 earlier.
Yeah,
so that
is
close, is comfortable. And we'll talk about G2 in a bit. There's just something quite wrong with Na'Vi, and
They're not there. They're not at that level. I think they're a little. I don't know. It's like, did you see the video of like their comms?
What? Where Emma's like, "Oh, let me go connect her," and Alexi's like, "Can you ever be quiet? Can you ever shut the fuck up after a round win?"
And it's like, and it's like, okay, like you guys are a bit sick of each other. Like you spend this much time in the company of the same 4 people, eventually you're gonna fucking hate them. Like things are just gonna annoy you, and I think that's probably where they're at.
But the thing is, it's like if you've ever seen Na'Vi at an event outside of matches, which I know is like hard for a lot of people to see, like maybe like ESL's filming the car park or something, you see a little bit. But you could tell last year why Na'Vi were winning so much, and it's because they just had such a good atmosphere within the team, like around those times. Like a lot of teams in between games and when they're waiting for their game will go outside and kick a ball around, right? A lot of them don't really laugh while they're doing it. They're just doing it to kill time. Na'Vi were always having fun, always making jokes, like having fun with the people around them as well. Like people outside of Na'Vi, just tournament staff. Like you could tell that the vibes were really good. And that just seems to have gone.
Okay, but were the vibes good? Were they winning because the vibes are good, or were the vibes good because they were winning? But
this is going back to like even when they weren't.
Oh, okay.
Winning everything, like they were like it, like Abu Dhabi. I feel like they were like it. Even in Abu Dhabi, yeah, they were right. I think they get to semis.
Yeah, like I don't remember what
they've been like it for ages. Like they just had good vibes, and we all spoke about the fact that their chemistry was why they were doing so well, and that just doesn't seem to be there. They don't seem to play off each other as well. Like individual form may have dipped slightly. Like there's a lot of question marks over Wonderful and JL at points.
Yeah,
but I just don't get how you fix it.
Improve either of those. Yeah, I don't think. I think the honest answer is they probably need a break.
Yeah,
I think it would help.
I did see a tweet the other day though, and to be fair, he did respond to it. Let me go and get his response just for the sake of context. Because I think context is important.
Like Na'Vi's 5, we all know can win events because they have done. It's like those players haven't suddenly got worse. Like you could talk about, they need to replace Wonderful. Wonderful was fine when they were winning things. They won a major with him. They won tournaments with him. Like Wonderful hasn't got worse. He's the same player that he was then. And it's like, I don't think individual players are the issue. I think I just think they're probably a little burnt out, a little sick of each other.
So a guy on the 8th, he tweeted an old quote of JL, and the quote was, "I lost a lot of motivation after the major. My only goal was to win it, and then we did." And the guy said, "This will always be one of the most dumb takes from any professional player for me. Back when he said this, I was so shocked. There's still so many things he hasn't achieved, while players like Carrigan and Nico are still going after more than a decade." And JL replied to it saying, "And then people wonder why pro players, or humans in general, don't speak about their feelings and emotions. I do hope you achieve your highest goal and see what it feels like. Until then, you should maybe get off of Twitter." Also, what I meant was that I dropped in motivation and had to create bigger goals for myself, but going off of the clickbait title is always better. And
so, that's fair enough from JL, to be honest.
It's completely fair enough. And maybe he has created these bigger goals for himself, and who knows what the goal is. The goal might be to win the Grand Slam, like Navi have 2 notches on that. Maybe it could be to
be the best player in the world.
Yeah, but get even higher on HLTV's top 20, things like that. But I do think that after you've completed that first goal, even if you're making other goals, how much are those other goals going to mean to you?
Yeah.
Like deep down. And I thought about it, and I saw his reply. And then I thought about things he does outside, and like, would it really surprise you, right, if JL was to lose his spot on Navi? Would it surprise you if JL retired and became a streamer?
No, it wouldn't. I'm very much of the opinion, like, yeah, like he has achieved he's achieved what us fucking sitting at home want to do. Like he's already lived the dream. Like he could. I said this before when Virtus Pro, Outsiders won the major. It's like, and they were just shit after that. It's like, if I won the major, I'd be turning up to my next event in slippers and a pipe. I'm not asked after that.
Well, the thing is with JL as well, like, he's definitely going to have someone already, probably only Pixel, who has told him, like, "Bro, do you realise how much money you can make?" Like, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Where like, he would be so successful as a streamer, man, because he could play any game and he would be entertaining. It's not like Shroud. I'll never fucking understand anyone who watches Shroud, right? Shroud is the most boring man on earth. JL is a
People aren't
legitimately...
watching him for his personality.
Like, get a grip and just play the game yourself, then, bastard. But, like, JL is legitimately a very funny person. He's a very nice person to be around. Like, I end up spending reasonable amounts of time just chatting to JL at events, and he's just a good bloke to be around. And I don't watch streamers. I don't get streamers. If JL started streaming, like, with the attempt of being a big streamer and, like, playing all these random games, like you know, when a game like pops up, like Lethal Company did, whenever that popped up, if JL was streaming playing that, I'd probably watch. I think that would be quite funny.
I know,
as long as he wasn't playing with only Pixel.
I know what you mean. I wouldn't be surprised if he retired, if he got cut.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
But then I also think, yes, streamer money is good if you get it, but it's not as guaranteed, and you actually have to put in quite a lot of work to make a lot of money as a streamer.
Fine. But if JL retired, became a streamer, like in the same sense of Shroud, where he's like, you know, he's going through all the, like, this game's popping at the moment.
Variety streamer.
Yeah. If he then became top 5 within that bracket, it would not surprise me at all.
It would surprise me.
Because he'd be fucking good at games and he'd be fucking really entertaining as well.
It would surprise me. I'm not sure it's going to happen either, to be honest. And I think it's also... Navi went 3-1. We're talking about JL retiring. He went 3-1.
Right, in that sense. Move on.
Yeah,
okay.
They did fine. They only lost the sort.
This has already been a long podcast as well. Congratulations, guys. You're getting a lengthy episode, apparently. Mongols went 3-1. They beat Gamer Legion G2, lost Spirit, beat 3D Max.
Pretty much as expected.
As expected. Really fun
just
to
good.
watch, man. They're just fun to watch. Like,
they're just good.
I've got a friend who's recently started playing CS again, and he watched, like, Mouse Falcons, and he used to really like watching CS when he was playing it. He was like, "Man, I just watched it and it was fucking boring, man." It's like, yeah, because you watch Mouse Falcons. Like, in the nicest way, you ain't going to get joy out of that. Watch the Mongols. And then we watched it for a little bit earlier when they were playing 3D Max, and he was like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, these guys, they are just fun.
Yeah, Mongols are fun.
Thank God for the fucking
G2
Mongols.
are fun as well, but...
Oh, hang on. They're
a
couple of teams away. Mouse are the next 3-1 team. They beat Furia 2-1, Falcons 2-0, lost to Vitality 2-0, then beat Liquid 2-0. I don't have much to say about Mouse other than they're probably just as good as they were.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
And I still don't really know my takeaway from that.
No, it's quite annoying, actually.
Is it just that the upgraded firepower is working? Is Brollan doing... I mean, Brollan is doing decent. Like, that's fair enough. Is Sui overrated?
I don't think so.
What's the takeaway?
Was Brollan getting to a major final with Gamer Legion? No, he wasn't. The takeaway is, you know when... Right, this is niche. You know when Roberto Martinez would take over a team that could defend? And for like 6 months they were good because they could still defend because they were coached by David Moyes earlier. But now they actually can attack because he can only coach an attacking team. And then after 6 months, they just fall apart because Roberto Martinez hasn't taught them how to coach in 6 months.
Yeah.
That's what we're getting here. In 6 months, this team won't be able to play the game.
Okay, let's see. I like that. Let's see.
Yeah. It's the same thing would happen when Stanislaw would take over from Daps.
Yeah, all right. Fair enough. That would be funny if Brollan just becomes
Roberto
Swedish Stanislaw. Well,
yeah,
and
he just follows Sui around taking his job.
But Swedish Stanislaw, that's like a few drinks. That's about as good as Swedish. You still owe that.
Yeah, an easier time, a better time.
Your greatest bar.
Oh, definitely not.
Right, so the 2-2 teams, we're actually speeding up, man. This is great.
We're going to need to.
It's 7 hours long. 2-2 teams. First one, Eternal Fire. Lost 2-0 to 3D Max. Beat MIBR 2-0. Then lost to Liquid 2-0 and beat Pain 2-0.
You had Eternal Fire going through this stage. I looked earlier. And I said they're dodgy, man. They're just dodgy. They're dodgy, man.
Yeah.
They're just dodgy. They've beat MIBR and Pain and lost to 3D Max and Liquid. It's like, you're not as good as we thought you were.
Yeah.
The Pain are a bit crap. MIBR are rubbish.
Do you think that 3D Max...
by the way.
Not 3D Max. Do you think Eternal Fire maybe need to take a break from a couple of events? Have they played too many tournaments?
They have basically been non-stop playing for the whole year.
A very long time. An exceedingly long time. And they just don't look good right now.
No, they don't. And we know they can be good. And they do seem to go through these peaks and troughs, so I'm not too worried. But like right now, I wouldn't back them.
No, I regret backing
But they're
them.
still 2-2. So it's like, that's the beauty, quote-unquote, of seeding. Like, they got to play MIBR and Pain, so they're still in.
They are still 2-2, and that is a positive. You've just said beauty of seeding. We'll get to the ugly side of seeding very shortly. The next 2-2 team is G2. They beat Pain 2-0, lost to the Mongols 2-1, beat Saw 2-0, and then lost to Navi earlier today.
I don't know, man.
I'm going to have the same reaction for the next two teams we talk about.
I don't know G2. I don't know what G2 are. They were like this super talented team who played super loose, and now they're like a talented team who play loose, and it's like, yeah, you're not good enough to play like this anymore.
Do you know what? Do you know how Liquid really annoy me? Because I just think like they've got such a good rifle core, and Ultimate, he's starting to prove me wrong. He's starting to have more consistent games against better teams. I'll say that. He still makes some really fucking dumb decisions, by the way. There was one round, I'll talk about that in a bit, actually. There was one round yesterday that fucking melted my brain. I'm going to write a note about that. Ultimate round. There we go. Which, you know how they annoy me, because I think they've got a really solid core, and they've got an AWPer who, fair enough now, I don't think they could get a better one.
No.
I've accepted it. I've said something nice. They just need an IGL. G2 actually just piss me off and make me sad. Like, they don't even annoy me. They piss me off and they make me sad. Because they are fucking dreadful. They are fucking dreadful, and they are propped up by having Malbs, who isn't Nico, but he's really fucking good.
He's as close as you can get.
Yeah, Monacy, who's one of the best players to ever touch the game, and it's just a joy to watch. Heavy God, who, he's pretty solid. Like, he's pretty good.
He is really good.
The problem is with Heavy God is that Malbs can't replace Nico yet, and Heavy God can't replace Malbs.
They're both doing decent jobs at it. It's just...
They're doing decent enough.
Again, you could play like this when you had Malbs, Nico, Monacy. You can't play this way with Malbs, Monacy, Heavy God. It's not...
Yeah.
You have to have the juice to play like they do. They don't have the juice.
Hunter and Snacks on B Dust. Genuine. I was hoping someone would reply to this tweet with a worse duo, but no one did. B Dust, Hunter and Snacks. Can you genuinely?
Zeus and Seized, I think, used to play B on Mirage. That was ugly.
Okay, that is bad. But like a worse bomb site duo than those two in current Counter Strike, is there a worse bomb site duo, or even in the last 3 years? Like when the firepower took over, because we both know that Zeus would not have survived very long when the firepower took over.
Didn't Snappy and Dia play together on ends on some sides? That was
no, but I think Dia's rubbish, but like
I actually quite rate him.
But yeah, you quite rate him as long as he's not in a 1vx.
I quite rate him as long as I don't have to look at him. As long as I have to like watch him play. Like somebody used to say about when I was like particularly bad at Counter. Somebody used to say at me like, when you watch me from somebody else's perspective, I look a lot better. That's how I feel about Dia. Like, if I can read his name in the kill feed, he's fine.
You know what? We've played a lot of Counter Strike together, and that's a really valid comment.
Yeah, it is. It really is a valid comment.
Really valid comment.
Like when you watch me from somebody else's perspective, it looks like I know what I'm doing. That's how I feel about Dia. Like, as long as I can watch him on Snappy's screen. It looks like he's doing the right thing, and I think he's good. When I watch his perspective, I'm like, that was a bad decision, but you won the fight, so it's fine.
Meanwhile, Borup is the opposite. He looks rubbish from every perspective.
No, not at all. Borup is a soldier. He's just the unluckiest player to ever play the game.
Why is Borup catching strays?
I legitimately, I've never seen a more unlucky player than Borup. I'm not even joking. Mate, he gets so unlucky all the time.
Was it Cologne semi-final last year or the year before?
It was on Ancient.
We were sat next to each other just pissing ourselves at all the ways he died.
Oh, there was like... I think he died in every round. But half of them were not his fault. And the other half were just really funny.
The other half were just like Ferrari peaks, not a chance to fire back.
Yeah, it's like, he's so unlucky. I feel really bad for Borup. Shout out that guy. I hope he's doing well.
Shout out Borup. Nice guy.
Anyway, enough about G2.
What were we talking about? G2 are just shit, man. That's another team. They need like coach change, IGL change, and...
Sui and Ash.
I'm sorry, Hunter. It's probably time to go as well, mate.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on the new IGL.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. But like, also, if there is a viable option, off you.
Sui is available. I don't know how many times you have to say this. He is available.
Sui is one phone call away and probably a reasonable buyout.
And then you can get Brollan after that.
Yeah, when it starts to slow down a bit, just get in Swedish Stanislaw.
Exactly.
Okay, so... Right, preparing myself. Liquid. Okay, they're also 2-2.
I think we both said they'd be in a 2-2 game.
They lost 2-1 to Falcons, beat Fury and Eternal Fire 2-0 each, and then lost 2-0 to Mouse.
Right. All reasonable results, I think. For where I think they are.
Should they have beaten Falcons?
I had them and Falcons at about the same place, so I'm like, whoever wins that.
Well, okay, here's the thing, right?
Goes 9th, and whoever loses it goes 10th. Like.
Here's the thing. Would you and I say that Falcons and Liquid are in the same tier? I
would.
Yes. I mean, we would. But what are the reasons why they're in the same tier? Because for Liquid, it's IGL department, right?
Yeah.
What is it for Falcons? Because I'd still think that, really Liquid should beat Falcons. Because, Falcons just don't have it. Whatever it is, that Falcons just don't have it.
Which is weird, because they have, Nico, who is kind of, the it man. Do you know what they mean? You know, they say, the it girl. He's kind of the it boy.
But this is why Liquid frustrate me, though, man. Because, genuinely, just get an IGL and you are a much better team. You don't need JKS on this team. No, he doesn't serve a point. Just get an IGL.
You need Jame.
You even need fucking Jame, man.
Yeah, they need Jame.
Hooksy genuinely would improve this team.
They need Jame.
Fine. But, even Hooksy would improve it. Just a fucking brain would improve this team. And Ultimate, right, because I said I wanted to mention his round. It was... Who did they play yesterday?
Falcons have won, by the way. They beat Syria.
Yeah, I was getting to them next. So they played Eternal Fire yesterday. And there was a round on Inferno where he was double stacked up on short with... He was double stacked up on short with someone, A short. He gets a kill, and it ends up in a 5v4 or something, Liquid man advantage, or maybe it wasn't. People had died, right? People had died. Ultimate, for no fucking reason at all, even though whoever plays B had full banana control, Ultimate walks back off A site after he'd fallen back and walks around short, keeps going into Woxix AWP, and just dies. And Liquid, and this is how you know Eternal Fire are off it at the moment, Eternal Fire just threw one of the easiest rounds off the back of this one just terrible play from Ultimate, where there was no need for him to get aggressive in this situation. And it's shit like that, although Ultimate is proving me wrong, it's shit like that just has to go out of his games, because it will cost them in really key moments. And it should have cost them in that game, because that game was a 13-11 Liquid win, and they won the round in a way that they never should. And Woxic was so close to closing it out. That shit has to fucking stop.
You wouldn't get it.
Move on! Right, moving on.
I've
said my point.
Already over
Falcons,
time.
final, not the final 2-2. Fucking hell, there's a lot of 2-2 teams, aren't there? I always forget that. Right, yeah. Falcons, 2-2. Beat Liquid 2-1. Lost to Mouse 2-0. Lost to 3D Max 2-1. Beat Furia just 2-1. Falcons, mate. I don't know what you do to Falcons. I still think it has to be Zonic.
You just piano. Calm down a bit. Just wait. They're going to get the players they want. Just relax. They're going to get fucking Yimfat and Monosil. It's fine.
Yeah, okay, probably.
It's fine.
Probably, but why is this team worse than Heroic were at the end of last year?
I think they're all sick of Dexter. Are they worse? They're the same as Heroic were, though.
I think Heroic end of last year would beat Falcons.
They're kind of the same team, which is to be expected.
I still think they'd beat them.
I mean, that team did take a little while to heat up as well. So
I guess, but they did have Nikodos, and Nikodos is fucking rubbish. Gamer Legion are also 2-2. This is about where you'd expect.
We both had them going through, by the way. I checked earlier. We both had them. Yeah. They probably still will.
I don't know who they play tomorrow, but I'd expect them to go through. They lost 2-0 to the Mongols. Fair. Lost 2-1 to Pain. Probably need to start winning that. Then beat TYLOO and beat Saw 2-0 and 2-1. These are the type of games that Game Legion need to be winning and are winning. So,
yeah, good
for them. Again, they're a team that's going to get better over time.
I think the loss to Pain is actually quite a bad one for them. As far as I'm concerned, they should be beating Pain quite handily on current form. Pain, it was their only win, so it was Pain's only win. So if I'm a Game Legion, I'm looking at that. I'm going, we fucked it there. I think that's we chewed Na'Vi out for losing to Saw, and it's
we should chew them out, but I do think it is a lot more acceptable for Game Legion to lose to Pain than it is Na'Vi to lose to Saw.
Yeah, fine.
Na'Vi should never, ever lose to Saw. Like, Gamer Legion can occasionally lose to Pain.
Yeah, fine.
Because if Pain turn up, they're not terrible. The final 2-2 team, thank the fucking Lord, is 3D Max. They beat Eternal Fire 2-0, lost to Vitality 2-0, beat Falcons 2-1, and lost to the Mongols 2-0.
Impressive set of results.
Yeah, not a bad
Wins
set of results.
I know Eternal Fire aren't amazing. Falcons have their problems, but like for 3D Max, those are impressive wins. You lost to Vitality and the Mongols, so it's like 2 of the 4 best teams in the world. You have a chance to go through. You'd be pretty happy with that.
I expect them to lose tomorrow.
Depends who they're playing. I think they probably get one of the big boys, right? They get like G2 or something.
Oh god, they could be G2. But
I think it might be Eternal Fire. I don't know who it is, but like they've got a chance, honestly. Like,
3D Max, I'm still not convinced they're actually that good, but they're at least better than a lot of the teams that play in events like these.
They're a good team made of decent individuals.
Do you know what they
individually they don't live up to most of these teams, but
do you know what they might be?
Big.
The new big.
Yeah, they are.
They're the new gatekeepers.
It's exactly what it is because they play like Big did as well. They're clever. Like they will find a chink in your armor and they will just drill at it until it turns into a crack. And that's how they beat you. They
are just the new gatekeepers.
Yeah, they're a very clever team.
Fair play to them. Furia now are on to eliminated teams. They're out.
Waste of time.
Can't bother to talk about who they lost to.
Furia are exactly the same team they were like 12 months ago, and they show no signs of ever getting better or getting worse.
They're just crap. And we've spoke about it for a couple of weeks now. None of these Brazilian teams are actually going to be that worth speaking about until there's a big fat Brazilian shuffle, and that will never happen.
Which there won't be. Yeah,
that will never happen.
Massive contract.
And it's a shame because I actually think Brazil probably could have a top 5 team.
Mm-hmm.
At least top 7. At least top 7.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah,
except for the fact that all of their players are concentrated as riflers and they have no AWPers and no in-game leaders.
Well, you can have Biguzera as
fine.
Whatever. Move on. Speaking of Biguzera, actually, Payne went out. Elliott, you were right about him.
I will say they lost to G2 Na'Vi Eternal Fire. It happens. It does happen.
Yeah, not the ugly side of seeding.
Yeah, I think the worst one for seeding actually is the next team, which is Saw. Because Saw beat Na'Vi. They beat Na'Vi in their opening game. Their reward was playing against Spirit, G2, and Gamer Legion.
Yeah,
couldn't give them a nice easy one. No, straight into Spirit after beating the third best team of the event.
Oh, congratulations, lads!
Move over.
You beat the third best team in the world. Now you get to play the first best team in the world.
Yeah. Great,
Fuck
thanks.
You.
And then you lose that, and then you get G2. One game is against G2. It's never good.
Yeah,
and they're just unfortunate. Like they actually, they beat Na'Vi. There's a map off Gamer Legion. You can actually look back and be quite happy, even though they're 1 and 3.
And I think, am I lying? Okay, 13-8 against Spirit. Not bad. Ignore the 13-1 that happened just before that, but not bad, right? Yeah. This Saw roster can be very proud of this debut at Pro League.
Absolutely.
Really solid start. And they didn't completely bomb out after a strong Cluj-Napoca, which I think we probably both expected they would.
Yeah.
So
they're better than I think.
TYLOO, bless them.
Very sad.
Because we love TYLOO here. On my notes for this, MIBR, of course, has no notes. We won't be speaking about them. They're also out.
I have one line to say about MIBR, actually.
Okay, you say that before we close out with TYLOO.
They're one of few teams who've actually taken a map of Vitality in the last 3 months, so fair enough. It's as nice as I'm going to get.
Yeah, let's move on. Fuck that team. You've actually instilled hate into me.
Yeah, I don't like it. But they did take a map off Vitality, which nobody does, so fair enough.
So, TYLOO, sad face. My notes do just say sad face.
Yeah.
That's all I feel. Unfortunately, their first game was against Spirit.
And then Na'Vi.
Which was never going to go well. And then, Na'Vi lost. So they get to play Na'Vi.
Look, they won 75 rounds in 3 best of 3s. House Bets went out in the early stage with like 22. They both went out with the same
Mind
record,
Freak and House Bets went
combined
out
had
less
less
rounds.
Yeah, exactly. They got 75 rounds and they played Spirit Navi game. It's actually quite good.
It's not awful, and I don't know what this has all done to their VRS. I doubt it's
Probably
done
not
enough.
No, not enough.
But I hope
because they got a shit seed and went out 0-3, so actually it looked like they did bad.
Because seeding, by the way, is great.
Yeah. They averaged like over 10 rounds a map.
Yeah.
They played 7 maps and got 75 rounds.
So
it's the best teams in the world.
I hope we see more of them. I really do, because they were a lot of fun to watch.
At Epicland.
At Epicland. Because they were a lot of fun to watch, and they look like they could actually become something very solid if given the same opportunities as the Mongols have had.
Yep.
Unfortunately, VRS has taken over, so that shan't be happening. And with that, it's time for us to depart, because that's over our allotted time, and I'm sick of seeing Elliott's face.
Yeah,
I
I'm
really
sick of seeing my face as well. I'm going to put it in a pillow.
You should claw it off very slowly and painfully.
That's not my job. That's my wife's job.
Oh, do you need to talk to someone about that? I think there's helplines for that.
It's quite hot.
Oh God! Oh, we're going right. I'm Sam. My Twitter's AnimoCS2. There's a 1 in place of the I, and he's Elliott AZS. Oh God, I'm scarred by what you just said. James and Mac both do jobs. They've got Twitters. Mac, you can put them here below our faces for some reason. Why are they below our faces? Get your own fucking faces.
You can have mine.
Peeled off. Right. I'll see you next week. Farewell.